Imagine stepping into the Palace of Versailles in the late 1700s. You are surrounded by the absolute pinnacle of human wealth. Chandeliers dripping with crystal, gold-leafed ceilings, and the fashion, massive towering wigs, impossible waistlines, and gowns so radiant they practically glow in the candlelight. But what if I told you that this breathtaking beauty was entirely painted in blood? History books show us the glamour of Marie Antoinette's court. They show us the pinnacle of elegance and refinement. What they don't show you is the terrifying reality of what it actually took to look like a god or goddess. Behind the gilded doors of Versailles, fashion wasn't just a symbol of status. It was a silent, unregulated, and merciless killer. Today, we are stripping away the silk and unlacing the dark, toxic secrets of 18th century fashion. These weren't just dresses, they were beautifully tailored death traps. Chapter 1: The bone-crushing grand corps to survive in Versailles. You had to fit the mold, literally, and that mold was dictated by a garment known as the grand corps. This wasn't your average corset. This was a heavily boned, impossibly rigid bodice required for any woman attending the royal court. The goal was an inverted cone shape, shoving the shoulders back and crushing the waist down to unnatural extremes. To achieve this silhouette, maids would lace these corsets so tightly that they generated hundreds of pounds of pressure against a woman's torso. But the human body is not hollow. Underneath that silk and whalebone, ribs were being pushed inward, sometimes overlapping or snapping completely. The lungs were compressed to the point where taking a full breath was physically impossible. This is why aristocratic women were known for swooning or fainting at the slightest provocation. It wasn't a delicate feminine trait, it was severe, chronic hypoxia. They were literally suffocating in plain sight. Worse still, the continuous downward pressure forced internal organs, the liver, the stomach, the intestines, out of their natural positions, pushing them downwards. This caused horrific digestive issues, chronic pain, and in severe cases, internal bleeding and fatal organ prolapse. They were slowly crushing themselves to death, all to bow gracefully before the king. Chapter 2: Scheele's green the arsenic gowns. As the 18th century progressed into the 19th, a new obsession swept the upper classes. A color so vibrant, so shockingly beautiful, that everyone had to have it. It was an emerald hue known as Scheele's green. It was used in everything: wallpapers, artificial flowers, and the magnificent ball gowns worn by high society women. In the dim candlelight of a ballroom, a woman wearing Scheele's green was the undeniable center of attention. But there was a lethal ingredient required to make this dye so brilliant: copper, arsenite, pure, unadulterated arsenic. Imagine the scene: a packed, sweltering ballroom, the exertion of a lively dance, the heavy, unbreathable layers of clothing. Naturally, the women would begin to sweat. And as their body heat rose, the sweat would dissolve the dye in their gowns. The arsenic would seep directly through the fabric and into their open pores. The symptoms were gruesome. It started with painful, weeping skin ulcers where the dress rubbed against the body. Then came the nausea, the agonizing stomach cramps, and the violent vomiting. Slowly, night after night, these women were being poisoned by their own clothes. Their hair would fall out, their livers would fail, and eventually they would die an excruciating death. They were the literal embodiment of the phrase, "dressed to kill." Chapter 3: Venetian Ceres, the face of death at Versailles. Having perfectly pale porcelain skin wasn't just a beauty standard. It was the ultimate proof that you didn't have to work outside in the sun. You were royalty, you were divine to achieve this flawless, ghost-like complexion. Court ladies turned to a cosmetic known as Venetian Ceres. It provided a thick, smooth, completely opaque white finish that hid blemishes and smallpox scars flawlessly. The primary ingredient, white lead. Every single day, these women were painting their faces with a heavy neurotoxin. The lead would absorb through the delicate skin of the face, seeping into the bloodstream, and the effects of lead poisoning are as insidious as they are horrifying. First, the very thing they were trying to perfect their skin began to rot. The lead caused severe hyperpigmentation, leaving the face covered in grey, black, and yellow sores. And here is the ultimate tragic irony. To cover up the horrific chemical burns and scars caused by the lead makeup, the women had to apply even thicker layers of the toxic paste. It was a vicious, inescapable cycle. Eventually, the lead would attack the nervous system. Their eyes would swell. Their gums would rot, causing their teeth to turn black and fall out. Paralysis would set in, followed by severe brain damage, madness, and ultimately death. They poisoned their own minds, just to look like marble statues. Chapter 4. The Puff, a Tower of Vermin. If the dresses and makeup weren't enough, we must look up to the hair. Under Marie Antoinette, hair became an architectural feat. The style was called the pouf. These towering wigs and hair extensions could reach up to 3 feet in the air, heavily decorated with pearls, ship models, and actual bird cages. But how do you make 3 feet of human and horse hair defy gravity? You use pomatum, a thick paste made from rendered beef tallow and animal fat. Once the hair was sculpted, it was heavily dusted with wheat flour to give it that iconic powdered look. Because these structures took hours to build, women would leave them in for weeks or even months without washing. Now, think about what happens when you leave a pile of animal fat and food-grade flour sitting in a warm, dark place. It became an all-you-can-eat buffet for pests. These massive wigs became breeding grounds for fleas, lice, and ticks. The smell of rotting animal fat and unwashed scalps was incredibly foul, which is why they had to douse themselves in overwhelmingly heavy perfumes. It wasn't uncommon for blood-sucking bedbugs or even small mice to burrow into the warm center of the wig to nest. Women literally carried long silver sticks called head scratchers to violently stab at the bugs crawling around their scalps during formal dinners. Elegance on the outside, a literal infestation on the inside. Chapter 5. The final price of beauty. The 18th century eventually faded, and the towering wigs fell along with the heads of the French aristocracy. But the deadly obsession with fashion did not end there. It evolved. It transformed into highly flammable muslin dresses that turned women into human torches if they stood too close to a fireplace. It became belladonna eye drops that blinded women just to make their pupils look alluringly large. Versailles was the epicenter of a terrifying truth that has echoed through history. The human desire for perfection is absolute, and it is ruthless. These men and women willingly crushed their bones, poisoned their blood, and rotted their skin, all for the fleeting validation of their peers. They traded their lives for an illusion. The next time you look at a beautiful, classical painting of the French court, don't just look at the gold and the glamour. Look closer at the pale skin. Look at the rigid posture. You aren't looking at a portrait of high society. You are looking at a beautifully dressed crime scene.